Today I'm going to read some audiobooks with Blinkist, which sums up books, and I'm going to audio read this and even further compromise what I like, the key points, what I take away from that will be in this video. Try to do every day something you are afraid of, but know that is leading to your goal. Afraid, or which is uncomfortable to you, which you like don't want to do but actually want to do, but you don't want to go out in the cold to go jogging or something, but if you do it you will probably not, it's not that bad and you actually want to do it. Try to do only what really matters. Use the Pareto principle, which says that only 20% of what you do or what you can do is achieving 80% of the result. The rest, 20% of the result is 80% of the work, and you only do this 20% to achieve this 80%, which is hopefully good enough. This might or might not be true. For example, applied to poker, you maybe want to be like 80%, everybody can do 80%, but you maybe want to do 100%. But then again, there are so many areas where you can do 80% first, and that is probably even taking you to a world-class level. Given that even the top chess players are like not at all perfect. Humans are not perfect, and that's why 80% is probably in all areas is probably better than 100% in a few areas. To figure out what you should really do, try to ask yourself the question: if this thing I'm about to do is the only thing I'm going to do today, am I happy with my day? And if that's correct, it's probably a very high priority thing to do. Start your day with the really high priority things. Ideally, you're done at noon with the high priority things. The Pareto principle also applies to your customers. Like the biggest customers are only 20% of the customers, and they are responsible for 80% of the revenue. This can probably also be applied to poker, by the way. So table select hard, and the rest is basically only training and not revenue anymore. The product you're trying to sell should be making a big promise, and the use of the product should be only in one sentence to summarize. Don't confuse your customers with too many choices, like only one premium product like Apple basically. The more customers have to decide between something, the more they cancel the buying process. Selling a premium product for a premium price has the advantage of that people that have money don't complain as much, so you can make actually the promise of giving back the money if they're not satisfied, because they are easy customers and a lot of money. This was a summarization of the 4-hour week. There are two thinking processes: rational process and intuitive process. Intuitive is fast and in most cases good enough, but rational should be better, even though it does not seem better at first. So our brain is pretty lazy and tries to solve problems. If they seem easy to the brain jumps to the easy conclusion and not trying to think hard about the complex one. The example for that is the $1.10 example, which is kind of famous. So basically the brain tries to use the first system, the lazy intuitive system, to solve the problem, and is not going to use the other more aufwendiges system. The brain and what it thinks can be primed. So basically, if you see a word which can like S and at the end E, it can be two different things. And if you think before the problem, you think about like cars or something, you think about something else than if you think about washing. So the brain is, you can guide a person's brain to thinking about different stuff if you have that before in his mind. Our brain is quick to judge. If you know a single thing about the person and you like that, you are estimating that the person is over a great person and is doing everything great, which is not the case because you don't know anything about the person, but you think you know that. People tend to use heuristics to solve problems. If they can't solve the problem fully and good, they reduce the problem to a simpler problem and solve that, and then apply it to other problems. It's a good way to solve problems anyway, but the brain uses this a lot. For example, if you judge a politician, if it's good, do you want to elect him or not? You probably don't know anything about the politician, but you judge from his his looks, basically. People tend to ignore statistics, and their imagination is ruling their thinking. So if you know that 80% of the taxis are red and only 20% are yellow, and you see 5 yellow taxis in a row, your brain thinks the next taxi is probably also yellow because that is in your imagination. That's what you just saw. But the reality is it's not, and even though you know that, your brain thinks the next taxi will be yellow. This works probably even for people that should know better, like me. Rememberization of events. The end of the event is remembered much more strongly than the rest of the event. So if you want people to remember the event positive, end it on a positive thing. The brain is not remembering the whole thing, just taking certain parts out of the event and remember that, and that's also why you only remember the positive things mostly. There are 2 states of mind, like the easy state and the not so easy state, and like basically autopilot or really thinking about stuff. And if you apply that to poker, for example, you might tend to focus more if you play the highest stakes you play and switch on to the easy part, like not by thinking about it, but it just happens. If you play lower stakes, you turn on your autopilot. And you can steer that a bit, like for example, for the easy parts, you turn on your one system and take it to the autopilot, like pre-flop stuff, for example, play to poker, and then maybe some other stuff you completely do with autopilot and don't think about this by choice, and then think about the important stuff a lot. And there should be like rules where you think about it or don't. And you can put you out of autopilot by looking at stuff that is more complex, like looking at the heart, for example, after a certain point, and like automatically make it hard for your brain to figure out stuff. Don't use hotkeys or something like that. People react much more strongly if you presented like likelihoods in a way like you say not only, but 3 childs out of 1 million have died from this. But if you say it in a percentage wise, like 0.003% or something like that, then people, like even I don't, it doesn't matter how many zeros, and it just sounds unlikely to the person if you present it in a percentage way, because they don't see the persons behind that. If you say 3 childs died, the people think about the 3 childs, and then they are much more likely to be against whatever. Like it seems more likely if they think about the persons involved in this. By the way, I did not think about the 0.003% thing. That was kind of my intuition. So I don't know if it's wrong or not, but that was the intuitive thinking, not the rational thinking. Game theory decisions assume rational decisions of the other opponent party, but that is not the case with humans. Humans do not behave rationally most of the time. Emotions and imagination steers our actions and not rational decisions most of the time. People fear much more to lose something than they enjoy winning it. So they are much more likely to gamble with something they didn't have before but just wanted. But they are much more likely to fold the poker hand if they have, like, if they it would take them into losses basically. People are relying way too much on their imagination, even though they should know the statistics better. Weber example is if it's summer, your imagination shows you a sun, or if it was warm the day before or something like that. Even though the weather forecast says it's going to be rainy, you're probably going to have your clothes like it's summer because it's summer. I'm also one of the guys that does not accept it's winter again, and for me it's summer if it's August, so I'm going to cloth as it's summer. This was from this book here, and also a lot of stuff added for myself basically, from what I got from it, and examples from both me and this book.